Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours. John Dickinson here, streaming live from Sydney, Australia. It's 9:30 a.m. in the morning. Got my coffee. Should last me about a good hour in this nice cup. Keeps it nice and hot. And today what I thought we'd do is spend a bit of time in particle illusion. And I haven't done any preparation whatsoever. I thought I'd just smash open After Effects and get particle illusion opened up and just chuck in some presets and see what I can create out of them and see where we go. Now, I'm following the chat on the other monitor here. So if you have any questions, want me to look at certain specific things, just shoot it out or shout it out. I'm pretty good at particle illusion. Can't say I'm too good in super emitters. Ben's much better at than me at those, and Alan. But I'll certainly do my best. But I've got my own skill set in particle illusion. So let's switch across to my screen and let's just play around for a bit. Okay, I just have my little face up there in the corner. All right. Hi, Claude. Yeah, just keep the chat busy, ask any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. We've got about an hour, so just see where we get, okay? So I'm here in After Effects, and I'm going to create a new comp. I could use a standalone, but I generally work in After Effects. Let's see. I'm just going to make this, 5 seconds. Get my screen set up here a little bit. I'm going to just click on my workspace here and just reset that. Okay. All right. So here in my comp, let me just get this set up a little bit. I'm working at 1080, 1920 by 1080, so it's not much area here. Let me just close this. I'm just going to right click on this tab and choose Close Other Timeline Panels. There we go. And close the render queue. All right. And close Parent and Link. And just get this set up. Okay, that's better. What I might do also, now that I've got that done, is just save changes to this workspace. I've got my own workspace up here, JD. All right. Okay. Now, new solid in After Effects. It's coming up on the other monitor. We'll just drag it over here. I'll make that black. Click OK. Hopefully the crash gods will be with us today. And I'm going to type in particle illusion in the effect and presets panel. And BCC particle illusion. Okay, so I'm using the latest release version. And let's click to launch particle illusion. So what I want to do is, I was playing around with some of the presets the other day, and just for the graphics for this session and for the website, and I was just taking them a little bit further. So, and that's a really good way to explore particle illusion. Just apply a preset and see how it's created, and then just play around with different parameters to see what you can come up with. Let's just reading what Claude's saying. Start a project including some sound waves. Wanted to check if I do them with PI. Maybe there's a preset. Sound waves. Well, particle illusion does have the I can't remember what it's called now. One sec. Let me just click apply here and come back to After Effects. It does have the beat reactor. I always forget what it's called. And I've got an internal verification failure. That's there you go. I've already started. It's already crashed for me. Fantastic. Of course, After Effects did update last night. So I've launched it this morning and it's a brand new version of After Effects. So we'll see what happens with that. You can use beat reactor to get the particles to react to music. I'd have to get a little bit more information on what you're trying to create, Claude, in order to be able to create that. No sound wave presets as far as I'm aware. Let's just go back into particle illusion. Hopefully if we stay in here, we should be okay. All right. So let's take a look first of all. Why don't we just type in sound and There's nothing that comes up. Type in wave. We've got light waves, and we've got ethereal waves, and we've got bamboo waves. We don't have any sound waves, but you can get your particles to react to sound, and that might be something that you'd like to do. Yep, beat reactor, you know about that. That's good. Let's see. That's something that looks a little bit like, I don't know, a sound wave, I guess. I'm just going to apply this. This is one of the presets I created from a 3D model. Let me just play that. So this has got keyframes as well. So, you know, you've got that kind of speaker-esque kind of thing. You could, this is a good idea actually, you could take a 3D model and, you know, create rings and then bring that into particle illusion and use that as your emitter. And that will give you that sort of look. But I don't know, it depends on how what you're imagining the sound wave is supposed to look like. You know, what you're looking, is it supposed to be a ring? You know, is it supposed to be more like, I don't know, Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures album cover? You know, I don't know, it just depends on what you want. Brian's in town. Okay, so let me just delete that one. I'm going to just select those nodes and delete. And I want to look at, let's see, going to, what have we got here? We got that one. I don't think I've got the 2023 presets in here. Maybe I do. Let me just clear that search. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to choose this one here, Sparky Cartoon Meteor Trail, this one here. Okay. So I'll grab that one. I'm just clicking and dragging in the preview panel here. You can do that for hours. Yeah, you need to give us a bit more information on that. That would be good. Okay, going to double click, apply that, and it's going to stick it in the center of the stage there. It's going to click play. All right, so we need to give it some movement. I'm just going to roll my mouse wheel just so I've got a bit more space. I'm going to click and drag it across to the left here. And that's going to put it outside the viewable area. So when I click play, you can't really see much other than that little bit in the corner there on the side. And there's a couple of ways to set position keyframes. And one is I could click over here in the controls and choose a keyframe option, linear or Bezier. Another way is to set auto key, but I generally don't use auto key because I forget to turn it off. No matter what piece of software it is, I forget to turn auto key off and I've added keyframes I don't want. I'm sure you've been there too. Okay, so what I'll do is I will do it over here. I'll just click linear, move my time indicator. I want this to move fairly fast. Click and drag, and you can see I'm dragging out the motion path there. I want to drag it a little further past the end of the stage. Otherwise, when it lands, we'll see smoke at the other side. So I'm just going to have that come across. Okay, that's good. Let's give yourself a little more size there. Zoom. Okay, so I want to play around with this trail, you know, add a bit more to it, see if we can make it look a little, I don't know, a little different. The particles are very small at the moment. So when you've applied a preset, you've got the layer and the emitter down here in the nodes, and you've got the particles. So this is made up of a glow, smoke, and tiny sparks. And if you want to disable a node, you can just double click on the dot on the left hand side. So I'm going to double click on glow and disable that, and double click on smoke. So if you're working on part of the preset, better just to hide the other stuff, just makes things faster. Excellent, thanks. Couple of tutorials there, fantastic. Hi, Michael. Okay, so let's see if we can make them a bit bigger first. So we've got one particle node. We'll select that one and just come over here to the controls. Now in the most recent version of Particle Illusion, you can see that we have categories now. So it's starting to get much easier to find things. In previous versions, you'd have like a squillion parameters over here on the left and constantly looking up and down to try and find the thing you want. But it's a little easier to find things now. Hey, Ben. Okay. And let's see. I'm going to change the size. So under Appearance. So I've got the particle node selected. Size is set to 24, which seems rather large, doesn't it? Let's have a look at the emitter node and come over to size. So size is set to 45 there. And I mean, if you've watched anything that I've presented over the last year or so, couple of years, I'm sure I've mentioned it more than once, is that the emitter has some parameters that are the same as the particle node, the same as the particle, but the emitter is kind of like a global control. So if the emitter is set to 0, it doesn't matter what the particle size is set to, it'll still be 0. If the emitter is set to 100, then it'll be the exact amount that you've set in the particle node. If you set it to 200, then it'll be twice as big. So this just scales the parameter in the node, in the particle node. What I'm going to do is set this to 100 to start with. So that's already made them bigger, right? So keep that at 100. Come back to the particle node and let's see, bring this size down to about there. Okay. So, all right. So we can see them a bit now. Now they're all, they're not actually the same size. They're fairly uniform. We want to change the size variation. So we've got size variation for the particle node. Let's have a look for the emitter node. And there's no size variation for the actual emitter. So let's come down to here. And so why are these different sizes if size variation is set to 0? Let's explore. So we've got to come back to the emitter node and we've got turbulence field. There's a bit of turbulence in here. We'll look at that in a sec. Come down to the bottom. Size turbulence is 0. I don't know, maybe I'm actually just imagining that the size is different. Or maybe we've got size over life. Let's take a look at size over life. There's something here that's causing the size to be different. So it's not size turbulence and it's not size variation. What about size over life? Aha. So size over life is at 0, but you can see there's a red box around it, so it's keyframed. That indicates that it's keyframed. And a side note, the over life parameters used to be all down the bottom, but now they're up in the category that makes the most sense. So size over life is in appearance with size and size variation. Excellent. All right, so we know that it's size over life. So let's click on that. And now we can see the size over life graph over here. So we take a look at this. We can see that they're scaling up pretty early on in their life because this graph here indicates the life of the particle. So they're scaling up quite early. So if we click in here, they're going to be basically 0 scale at the start. And they're going to scale up to 150 very quickly. And then they're going to scale down. Let's just zoom in on that. We'll reset that. They're going to scale down to about 50. So scaling down at the end. See that? So they're going to scale up and scale down. Let's just zoom. Quickly scale up when they're born. And the opacity is changing as well. We'll look at that in a moment. They're going to quickly scale up and they're gently going to scale down. So that's why they're different sizes. I'd like to have them slightly more variation in the size. So let's come back to Let's see. Got that selected, that's great. And we'll come down to size variation. Where is it? That's up the top. So size variation. So I'm just going to roll in with my mouse. Just watch what happens when I increase the size variation. So now we're getting a bit of variation. That's good. Okay. Yeah, good. Giving us sort of more clumpy areas. That's great. Now, notice how opacity is set to 100. That's fine. We're getting the opacity from the alpha over life. So at the moment they're being born, and if you look at the alpha, you can see they're basically invisible for the first part of their life, and then they fade in, and then they fade out. So imagine this is the life of the particle. Okay? Well, don't imagine it. It is the life of the particle. So what I want is that I want them to actually be visible earlier. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to bring that back. And you can already see it's updating on the stage there. And I'm going to have them brighter for longer, like that. Apply that. Okay, let me just turn on the smoke again. And maybe just take a look at that. Okay, the smoke is in front of them. That's fine. That's quite nice, isn't it? See how they're sort of intermingled with the smoke, rather than just being kind of fading in at the end. I'd rather have them, have some sparks in mixed in with the smoke, like that. That's better, I think. Very nice. Yeah, definitely, Claude. All right. Now, let's have a look at the smoke. We'll come back to the tiny sparks. We've got smoke selected. What I think I'd like to do is have it maybe fade a little more at the end. So here it's going to a sort of semi-transparency. It's got us like a mid-gray there. What's that? It's about 59%, so close to mid-gray. I'm going to bring that down a little bit, make them even more transparent. I'm going to bring that up a bit, and maybe even bring that down a bit. Actually, we might need to add to click another stop and double click that one, and then just apply that. So I'm trying to get a little bit more transparency through here. Now, I haven't sat here and done this before I did this live stream. I'm doing this live. So I'm literally working this out as I do it, as I present. And this is the way I do it, in my day-to-day work. How's that? Is that working? I think so, yeah. Let's just make it really extreme. Yeah, you can see it's working now. You can see it's actually starting to... But I think I want it to be a little darker. Something like that. How does that look? Let's apply that. What do we got? It's interesting. We've got some sort of transparency in there. Just going to see if this actually is going to work for me. I want that off. So I want it more there. I want more there. That's better. And I want that off. Hang on. Why is that doing the end there? It's interesting. Take that all off. Take it all off. Okay. So I'm going to apply that. Strip that right back. Okay, let's take a look at the opacity of these. Can you have the alpha of the small sparks be driven by the alpha of the smoke? No, not currently. You can't link that, but that's a good suggestion, definitely. What you can do, What you can't do currently, but what you might be able to do in an upcoming version is kind of like not necessarily link it, but choose the same alpha. So something to keep an eye on. Little sneak peek for the, or a little hint for the people who come to Officeworks. Officeworks? No, Office Hours. Officeworks is a stationery store in Australia. My voice keeps breaking too. Every time my voice goes, ugh, my son picks it up and reminds me that it's breaking. Okay, I have to be sure to show him this recording. Okay, so you can't see my mouse cursor. Is that correct? That's interesting. I wonder why. My mouse cursor is here. Yeah. Listen, I'm going to save this. I'm just going to click save. It's going to save the actual particle illusion project onto my desktop. Okay, so let me just take a look in OBS. I haven't changed any of my settings in OBS, but apparently you can't see my mouse cursor. So I'm going to go into settings. Maybe Ben can walk me through where it is. Output. Just give me an idea where it is, Ben. Okay, screen share, desktop share. Just one sec, everyone. And double click on the screen share, desktop share. I see. Okay, I got you. I see it. Bring it back to here. And I don't have that in my properties. Let's try that. Let's see. Sorry, everyone. There we go. I think I got it. Can you see it now? So that's something in OBS that turned off. You should be able to see it now, I think. I'll just make sure that that is working. Yeah, we are properly live. That's right. Okay, so what am I doing with my cursor? I'm making a big circle, right? Can you see it? Yay! All right. So why did it take 15 minutes for someone to tell me you couldn't see my cursor? Unfortunately, I couldn't see that on the stream because I can see my cursor. All right. Now, let's keep going. The show must go on. So what did I do? I've reset my alpha over life, so it's now set to black. You can see my particles are fading out. So thanks for that too, Ben. On my face. Yeah, do you like my haircut? I got a funny story for you. On the weekend, I was cutting my hair, and I use a pair of clippers just to get it short. But then I use this kind of like a clippers that it's like a circular clipper, and I do this. And I'd done the first clipper, and I went to do the second clipper, and I went zzz, and all this hair came off, and I realized the guard was off my clippers. So I had no clippers. It was like the lowest possible setting, so I just had to keep going. And now it's as short as it's ever been. Funny story. Okay, let's get back to particles. So alpha over life, like I said, is black. We're going to go and adjust that in a moment. So let's work out why these are fading out at the end. And I think you can probably tell why. I think we can tell why. So let's see. With the smoke selected, let's just explore. We've got bowling ball wax. I know that's the first time I've ever been able to see a shiny part of my head. I think I'm going to be seeing a lot more of my shiny head from now on. Let's see. So it's good to just select the particle nodes and just have a look and see what's going on. When I first started using particle illusion, when I joined Boris FX, one of the things I really wanted, and Alan explained to me that it isn't that easy to do, is I really wanted to be able to do like you can in After Effects, where you hit something like UU, and it shows you everything that is not at its default settings. So you could instantly see, what's been adjusted. It isn't that easy to, it's not very discoverable to find how something is set up necessarily in particle illusion. I'd like to find even better ways to be able to do that. Because I still find myself looking up and down trying to find things. So we've come a long way. We've got the grayed out defocused settings, but I think we've got a way to go. Let's see. What's the opacity set to? Opacity is 100. Life variations 1. Okay, so what about size over life? Size over life. No, nothing's really changed with that. I'm just trying to work out why it's fading out at the end there. Looking. Position turbulence. Nothing to do with that. Just going to select this one. Okay. Just turn off the sparks. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually it's changing color, and it's also getting a little smaller. Just looks like it's fading out. Let's see. Yeah, see, it's actually color over life. It's going to black. So it just looks like it's fading out. If I take that off, it's no longer doing that. So I'm going to cancel that. Actually, what I might do, why don't we just make this a little different? Let's so it's going to be maybe a little brighter here and a little sort of wider at the end. So why don't we take that and actually make this a little lighter. Something like that. Okay. And actually that'll be at the other end, wouldn't it? And that's why I'm getting confused, because it's flipped around. So let's go like that. And we'll make this brown. Take this one off. Can we take that one off? Yeah. Make this one brown. Like that. And wouldn't it be great if we had a better gradient editor? That's one thing I've always wanted. Put that there. And bring that down. we want it to be a little darker towards the end. We don't want that much there. So I want to just stick that there like that. Oh, it's a little red, isn't it? Just take some of the saturation out of it. Maybe a little darker. A little bit of playing around with that. Actually, what I want is to put that one there, that one there. And what is that one? That's, I'll just copy that and come to the end here. Oh, it's going to give me the same one anyway, so that's good. So that's kind of what I want. And maybe just add another one at the end here. Make that a little darker still. Like that. That's what I want. Yeah, I was a little confused because the way that it's animating is, the opposite direction from the way the gradient is. And I suspect that's what's happening with the alpha gradient as well. So let's try that. Yep, color over life, that's right. Okay, excellent. All right, so got that adjusted. Let's take a look at that with the glow on it. Ooh, it's really bright now, isn't it? Okay, we're going to have to work on the glow. Let's come back to the smoke, though. We'll turn off particles and glow. And let's try some different smoke. I'm going to double click on the particle, the little white dot on the black box. It's going to open up the library or the particle shape editor. And at the moment, this is supposed to be a cartoon meteor, but I'm going to play around with it a bit. It's using this white dot. Let's come down to smoke and take a look at some of these. Now, some of them have little red play buttons on them, so they actually have multiple frames. You can see if I click the forward arrow, I can see the frames, so they're animated, and you can make your own of these as well. Cosmic smoke. I guess I kind of want something cartoony, but I want it to be have a little more variation in it. So what's that one? That's a cloud. What else is there? And Alan just pointed out to me you can mouse wheel to scrub through multiple frames. There you go. I didn't know that. That's excellent. I'm just rolling. I've just moved my cursor over the box here and just rolling my mouse. That's much faster, Alan. Thanks for that. What do we want here? I kind of want cosmic smoke, but I want more frames than that. Let's try cosmic smoke. And did that actually do anything? Do you see anything happen with that? Yeah, probably just add a little bit more detail to the ends there. Let's try, cancel that. Let's try something else. Magic. There's one thing we're also going to look at is making it easy to find things in the particle shape editor. At the moment, it's just a little bit of sort of like, there's a little bit of searching that has to go on to try and find what you want. Okay, so let's try this one. I'm rolling my mouse wheel over here. See how it has 9 frames, but all of them are quite different. So let's try that one. That should make that look a little bit more like smoke. And now currently it has a random start frame, which is good, but I don't necessarily want it to cycle through those frames. I'd rather just use an individual frame. So I'm going to click Use Single Frame. So with Use Single Frame and Random Start Frame selected, it's going to choose a random frame from those 9 frames, and it's going to give me a good mix of different shapes. But it's not going to cycle through or play back that particle's 9 frames for every particle. I'd say that looks a lot more smoky, doesn't it? A lot more smoky. Maybe there's a few too many though. So let's see. Let's change the number. There's a lot there. So there's 1380.5. And for the particle number, there's 300. So I'll just bring it down to 100. Now I'm just playing around here as well. That might not be the best look for that. And since we're starting to make it look a little more realistic, why don't we come back to the tiny sparks and we'll change the size. We will make them smaller. And maybe decrease the number. Just knock that back. And I want to give them a little bit more movement. So let's see, velocity is quite low. If I drag this amount, it's going to push the particles out a little more, like that. Okay. And let's try this. We'll try random, so a bit of motion randomness. Just drag that up. Like that. Okay. And just for a sec, what I'll do is I'll just increase the number and bring that right up. Let's bring that up to 3000. Like that. I'm just going to hide the smoke for a sec. Bring that up. And let's use some fluid dynamics to see how that might change this. So what we'll do is we'll add a force by clicking on plus force. And I want this to affect the entire scene currently. So I'm just going to make that cover the entire stage. I said scene, but I guess I meant stage. And if we play back now, all that's going to do is push all of those particles to the right because that's the default direction. So it's going to zoom in there a bit. And for that force, I'm going to enable fluid dynamics and see what that does. Okay, so it's actually sort of restrained them somewhat, but you can see towards the end it's starting to get a bit of that fluidity to it. So we need to make some adjustments. Let's first of all change the simulation detail to 32. Looking good towards the end, but they're kind of sticking together. So let's change the simulation to 64. It gives us even more detail. It's not going to do a lot yet. Okay, so we'll come back to 32. And we need to give it a little more movement. So what we can do is come back to the emitter. And it's got some movement from the turbulence field, so we can give it some more movement. Let's increase the auto evolve speed to 100. Alan's probably looking at me going, what are you doing? He's like the godfather of particle illusion. And okay, that is definitely helping. But we probably need a little bit more velocity, right? So let's go back to the particle and increase the velocity. See if that helps. And just give it a sec. Okay. Has this helped? Yeah, okay. So with that extra velocity, because obviously fluid dynamics needs the particles to move. If they're just, if a particle is suspended in water but it's not moving, it's just not gonna have that dynamic movement, right? So the particles actually have to be moving in order for the fluid to affect how they move and how they look. So you use things like velocity and turbulence and weight to affect that. So that's looking a little more realistic now, rather than just shooting out in a uniform manner and speed. We can change the velocity variation a bit. Let's try that. Bring it up to 100. Okay, let's bring the velocity right up and see what that does. It's a little bit difficult to see. Why don't I make the particles a bit bigger? Let's just come to the emitter and change the size. Okay, so let's look at that. Okay, now I'll leave them at 200 for now, and we've got affected by fluid set to 100. Can we increase that to more than 100? Alan's just giving me a pro tip here. I'm just going to check that. The affect fluids value. Yep, affect fluids is already set to the max value, Alan. Ah, you can go beyond 100. There you go. So I didn't realize that. So we make that 200. Great. So selecting the particle emitter and coming down to the bottom under physics and increasing the affect fluids amount will make things like velocity and motion randomness and turbulence more obvious with the fluids. That's great. Thanks, Alan. Which is quite nice because you might have the velocity and everything else set up exactly how you want, but you just want a little bit more movement. So you just come down and increase the affect fluids value. It's probably a little too much now. Or maybe my velocity is too high. Let's bring that down to 150. Okay, now it's a little too low. Let's bring that to, say, 200. Okay. And we'll come up and we'll change the auto evolve speed. And velocity variation. Come down to the particle. Velocity variation, where are we? Actually, we'll bring that velocity down to 250. Obviously, it takes a bit of dialing in. Sometimes you have to make the value really high in order to see what's going on, and then dial it back. Let's make that 50. How are we going for time? Wow, it flies by. And it's going a bit sort of mad at the end, isn't it? They are a little bit clumpy for me. So let's see. Why don't we come down and under physics again, why don't we decrease the affected by fluids amount? At the moment, it's really clamping down on the fluids. Let's make that 50. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit of fluid motion, but not as much. Make that 75. That's better. They're just going a bit sort of mad at the end, aren't they? And I think that's to do with the random motion. I'm going to make that 0. And just play that back. What else we got here? And checking all of these out. Position turbulence over life. So the position turbulence, usually when you're looking at the simulation and later on during the simulation, particles start doing something different, or their movement starts changing in some way. Usually it's got something to do with over life parameters. So these were only getting that turbulence value a little bit later in the particle's life. So I'm actually going to make that constant and just make that 50. See if this changes it. That's much better. That's much better. So it was an over life value. All right. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit there. Come back to my emitter and just come to that second keyframe. I'm just going to bring that further across. And there we go. And I want to actually give it a little bit more fluid. So maybe increase the swirl turbulence. Okay, and I'll increase the simulation detail. All right, didn't make a huge difference, but that'll do. Turn on the smoke. Now these are obviously way too big. I'm going to double click and not going to double click. I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm going to make them smaller. 2, maybe even 1. And I think the size variation is way too much. So I'm going to change my mind with that. Okay, maybe make them a little bigger. Obviously, it all takes a bit of dialing in. Now, keep in mind that because the force is encapsulating the entire stage, that the smoke is also receiving some of that fluid dynamics. And I do have this strength value for the force set to 100. I don't necessarily have to have any strength for the force. Generally, it's quite a good idea to have your fluid dynamics force as a separate force without using any strength, and then use other forces to sort of guide the particles. I find I get more control over that. Very small. Okay, so let's just come to the glow now. I'm just make a few adjustments to that. Yeah, that's right. The changes will have an effect on the hidden part because they're all children of that emitter, Claude. Correct. Okay, let's just have a quick play with this. How much time we got? We got about 10 minutes. So let's see. Just a quick save. And let's take a look. We've got size over life. That's the first thing to look at. So it's very small, then comes up very big. I might just bring it a little smaller, so it doesn't actually get as big. And what's the particle we're using? Looks like some sort of glowy particle. Where is... Come on, open up. I want my particle editor. There we go. So yeah, it's a soft glow. I wonder if we used clouds for this one, or smoke. You know, we really need 2. what we really need in the particle shape editor is a favorites option. I don't know, is there a favorites option? So that I could just quickly grab the one I used before. Let's see. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be that one. Let's try it. That's quite good. Yeah, that's actually not bad. Let's use that one instead. Okay. And now intensity is on, and currently with intensity you've got either intense or basically really flat. You can see without intensity you're not generally going to use that very often, and with intensity I guess it's using like the add or linear dodge mode. So it's either one or the other. I'd like to see a few other blend mode options for this. That would be nice too. Something that's not quite as intense. Maybe screen. I'm not sure what it's using. But that's actually not looking too bad. Let's bring that one. So that's the front of it, right? We want to bring that to there like that. Have them fade out quite a lot like that. I want like a hot head to it, but a longer tail. Something like that maybe. That's not bad. Apply there. And let's take a look at that. Okay. There's been a few comets around the planet lately, hasn't there? I think there was a green one. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, one other thing I'll do to this is what I'll do is just quick save. I'd like a few smaller particles mixed in with this, as if they're sort of pieces peeling off the meteorite. So what I'll do is I'll select, keep that one selected. It's already selected, and I'm going to duplicate it. So now we've got two, so it's going to be twice as bright. So let's double click, choose particle, a little starry thing maybe not, maybe something a little smaller, or a little less star-like. Go into miscellaneous. What about that? That might be okay if it's small enough. Apply that. Let's just turn off the smoke and the glow and the tiny sparks. And we want to make these really small. So these are the extra part. These are the like glow bits. Okay, rename those. Size is the first thing. Bring that right down like that. And let's see. Weight. Let's give it a little bit of weight. And we don't know whether the actual emitter's got any weight currently. Yeah, it's set to 100, okay. All right. Let's go, what else can we do to that? Change this one. I don't want it to be white at the start. I want it to be like that. Take that one off. Apply that one. I'm going to come and change my particle because I don't like that one. That'll do. Maybe not that one actually. I'm going to change that one. Something a little softer. Make that much smaller. That's way too round, isn't it? I just want some kind of blob. Maybe that'll do. A spiky star. Okay, that's better. And change the size. Yeah, like that. Right, so. And velocity's got to increase. Velocity variation. And what else we got here? Position turbulence. Let's make that constant and make that 100. That's going to start moving it out. And let's also see what else can we do there. Number. Let's have a look and see how that looks with the glow on. Just double clicking that one to turn it on. So it's actually, you can just see it at the tail of it. So what I might do is increase the life. So they last a little bit longer than that one. As I drag that out, that's way too much. Let's make it 3. That's better. And now size over life. We want it to be, big then getting smaller, but maybe getting smaller earlier. It'll give us a shorter tail. So now we've got sort of attached to that. That's good. That's better. Obviously, there's a lot more work I could do with it, but let's turn on the tiny sparks. And turn on the smoke. There we go. Okay, so that's quite heavily modified version of the cartoon meteor. Just look at it from a distance. I mean, it obviously needs work, but the whole point of today was to give you an idea about how to look at a preset and just explore it and work out what's going on with it, and how you might be able to modify it to make something new. Once you've got something like that, you can just save that as a preset. So I could save the scene to the library. I could save the project. Probably most likely best option is to save the scene to the library, because that will save the force and save the entire setup. That'd be the best way to do it. Okay, so what time have we got? All right, so it's pretty much time. So any more final questions before we wrap up today? I'll do more of these particle illusion ones. And if you do have specific things that you'd like us to look at, you can email live@borisfx.com. I'm pretty sure that's the email, live@borisfx.com. And let us know. So give us a chance to sort of set something up so we can look specifically at that thing. You're welcome, everyone, and thanks for dropping by. Really appreciate it. And we will see you in the next Officeworks next week. Thanks again.